Hi, I'm B from Nectar Mechanics, and in today's video, we're going to be reviewing the brand new Transformers Rise the Beast movie. And spoilers, it's actually pretty good. So this is the first Transformers movie we've had in over 5 years. That previous one being Bumblebee, which was sort of a reboot, sort of a prequel to the Michael Bay films, and Rise the Beast is confirmed. Yep, it continues from Bumblebee, and this is now a sort of soft reboot. Honestly, I'm okay with this. As I've stated many times before on the channel, I'm not a huge Bayverse fan. Rise and the Beast and Bumblebee, on the other hand, have made me a bit more of a movie enjoyer. So this video is going to be almost a review slash recap. I'll sort of talk through what happened in the film, and then I'll talk about my opinions and also questions. There's a few plot holes I need to ask about, but otherwise, be expecting spoilers, and if you've not seen it already, wait until you have. So we start off with seeing the Maximals for the first time. They're on their home planet, and Scourge is coming in to attack them and stuff, and this is a really great way to set up the scene. We got Unicron coming in for the first time in live action. Like, they did him well. The theaters, they boosted his voice and everything, so it was just so deep. I could feel it in my chair. It was a very fun experience. I've not seen him like this since the '86 film, and it was a joy. Now we got Ape Link. Ape Link? You mean that BotCon surfboard riding dude who's a wrecker? He's just casually thrown in the movies? I don't mind, that's pretty cool. And so Ape Link and the rest of the Maximals have got to get the transwarp key off, because it's like this fancy doodad that helps them time travel, maybe, sorta. It's very vague. The point is, though, is that Unicron is not allowed to get it, otherwise he can eat all the worlds, he can teleport and stuff. So they need to get it off. Ape Link is all like, nah, you're the Optimus now, you're the other Prime, you lead the Maximals Primal, and I will stay behind and fight Scourge. And then we get this brilliant showdown between Scourge and Ape Link, where it lasts like half a minute before Scourge immediately skewers him. That was a bit of a shame. I was kind of hoping the greatest Maximal Warrior would have a bit more of a fight, but then I guess that's the whole point. Scourge is nasty and will do nasty things. Okay. Also, can I just say, when he first comes through the forest and he's all glowing on fire, that was bloody brilliant. So it's too late. The Maximals manage to evacuate the planet, they get the transwarp key away, and then the film probably starts. So my question, though, is when does this scene take place? Now, I know as a Transformers nerd that Beast Wars characters come from the future, they time travel to the past, and that's how come they end up with the Beast modes, but also having the future knowledge and knowing the Autobots and stuff. But in the movies, they tell you none of that. And so the question is, when is this scene taking place? Is it in the future? Is it in the past? Because if it's in the past, that makes a little bit of sense, because it's like, oh, okay, it's eons in the past, they go to Earth, and then Scourge just hunts them for ages. But they said they're from the future. So does that mean they time traveled to that Beast Wars planet and then had to travel from that planet to Earth? Because if it's in the future and Scourge is still alive, spoiler warning, he's not at the end of the film, so how does that work? This is my only problem with the film. It's really, really fun when you're watching it, but the second you think about it a little bit harder, it starts to get a bit confusing. Moving on though, we're finally on Earth. It's the 90s, and we get to meet our new human cast. We meet Noah, who's played by Anthony Ramos, and he's a really fun protagonist for this, way better than Shia LaBeouf ever was. He has a family, he's ex-military, he has some sort of past we don't know about, you know, he's not really up for taking orders and stuff. It's a great setup for when he finally meets the Autobots. He meets Mirage when he's trying to steal him to get money to pay for his kids' medical bills. And then Mirage takes him, and they go on this epic sort of crashing around quest around New York. They're destroying those police officers. They're dead, right? Most of them are dead. And he shows up at the Autobots HQ, which I love the little animated nod, how it's in the warehouse again, that's cool. And we meet the rest of the Autobots. Now, we did have a little bit of some introductory scenes before that. They're doing the calling all Autobots, and Optimus are transformed. And, dude, that Optimus transformation in the rain, the ones they show in the trailers, oh my god, that is one of the best transformation animations I've seen in a long time. Just the lighting, the rain really adding to the realism. It was just very cool. And this Optimus is a little bit of a jerk. Well, not really, but he basically doesn't trust humans, right? And Bumblebee's all like, hey, I hung out with them, you know, and they're pretty cool, so maybe trust them. Now, can I just say that Bumblebee's use of the movie quotes rather than radio music quotes was done really well in this film. It's mostly used for comedic effect, but it's not annoying. It's good quotes, it's good timing. It just works a lot better than other films have done with it. So after Mirage does a couple of Easter eggs, sort of Lamborghini and his classic Ferrari mode transformations to convince Noah, hey, you could still sell me and then you get the money, but also you can help us steal the transwarp key, which is going kablooey in the background. Now, one thing that's not really explained in the actual film is the fact that Mirage is using his hologram powers to actually turn into the other vehicles. He can change most of the way, but he uses the holograms to fill the rest out. But they don't show him making the holograms or making any sort of sound effects or anything. So later on in the film, when they infiltrate the museum where the transwarp key's held and everything, he's like this giant garbage truck that's double his normal size, and apparently the entire back half of that's a hologram. But they never say that, so it's a little confusing. Other than that, though, Mirage is a really fun character. They've sort of let Bumblebee have his time in the limelight, and they're pushing Mirage now as the new Kid Appeal character. And he toes the balance between irritating Kid Appeal and also decent character really well. A lot of the time, he annoys the other Autobots around him, right? Optimus is meant to be this old general dude, and he gets irritated by the kid doing the stupid stuff. But also, Mirage isn't a moron. There are some shows where you get, like, you know, Cheetor in the beginning of Beast Wars, and he's like, oh, I'm just gonna leg it out the base and just do what I want. Or like Smokescreen in Prime, where he's like, I'm just gonna reveal my secret identity because road rage. Mirage is at least semi-sensible and is actually pretty funny. So, transwarp key's going kablooey in the museum, and we need to go check out what that's doing. We meet Elena, played by Dominic Fishback, who's this sort of history science nerd who's doing stuff with this air razor statue they found, trying to decode the maximal symbols. She does something with the machine that scans the statue and makes it crumble to bits, so it's just the transwarp key. They never explain that, it just happens. But when she does that, it triggers it to make a giant beam in the sky, which then leads the Autobots to it, and also the Terracons. Now, something interesting I found is that with Scourge having all of the badges of his fallen enemies on his shoulders, he has Decepticon badges and Predacons, but they're nowhere to be seen in this film. I know that's kind of supposed to tie into it being a maybe prequel, maybe not, but it's also a little bit confusing because they never say where the Decepticons are. Like, I know in the deleted scenes there was going to be a one with Transit, who was like a bus dude. He was going to be the new opening of the film. Instead of the Maximal scene, that we're going to have Transit fighting Optimus. And Transit's a Decepticon saying, yeah, we keep blowing up your ships, that's why you're stuck here, and we're Decepticons, and we're doing the nasty shit, and Optimus is taking them out and fighting them, right? So I guess that's why there's less Decepticons, or, well, no Decepticons, but they, again, never address it in the final cut of the film. I'm able to piece together stuff because I'm a diehard nerd. A lot of people I know who just watched it as, like, their first major Transformers media were kind of like, where's Megatron? Because everyone knows that Megatron and Starscream Soundwave, right? They're the big three baddies, and they just don't show up. I don't mind, though, because the Terracons are actually pretty badass. Now, I know I've talked about Scourge a lot. He's this nasty sort of fire crackly man, but he's also got his teammates Nightbird and Battletrap. Nightbird, that's a fun surprise. She's not really been in any major Transformers media outside of G1 in Cyberverse, I think? So again, another live-action debut, like the rest of the Maximals. Same for Battletrap, although in typical movie-style fashion, he's nothing like his G1 counterpart. And that's fine, I'm used to it now. Little disappointed, but okay. So Autobots and Terracons show up at the museum, and they start battling it out for the transwarp key, and Bumblebee dies. I do wish they'd made his dying words a bit more clear. It's apparently Dead Poet Society, oh Captain, my Captain, when he's staring at Optimus, but in the cinema, it was just and then he dies. So I was like, supposed to be sad, but I'm also confused. Air-Razor shows up, and she's all like, Terracons, bugger off. But they've got the transwarp key, so they don't mind, they just leg it. And yeah, they have to deal with the aftermath of the fact that Bumblebee's dead. It's the end of Transformers Prime all over again. So they have to go off and regroup, and Airazor does that cryptic, "We're from the future, but maybe sorta not," which is so useful, and like I said, amazing for fans who've never seen Beast Wars before. Sarcasm. She then reveals the transport keys split in two, so actually they're fine. And Scourge discovers this the hard way when Unicron does a 86 movie style, "You fool, you failed me, I'm gonna make your head hurt now," which is sort of akin to how Galvatron gets those like wobbly red stuff in the 86 film. I really enjoy that. Also, apparently they were meant to make him more sympathetic in the original drafts. They were gonna be like, "Ah yeah, Unicron's corrupted me and tortured." In the final script, he's just kind of a jerk. So he's like, "Alright guys, let's go find the other half of the key." Oh, the Autobots are already trying to do that. Let's just let them do it for us and then steal it. Smart, I guess. Airazor doesn't know where it is, but Elena, who's been decoding all the stuff, is like, "It's in Peru." So we go to Peru with Stratosphere, who's like this giant cargo ship transformer, who's literally just a plot convenience. He shows up for two major parts in the film. We'll get to the second part later on. But in this, it's like, we need to go to Peru. How are we gonna get there? Oh, there's a jet transformer. What does he do after that? Flies away till he's needed again. So, they fly to Peru, carrying Bee's corpse with them. They have some vague, maybe we could save him stuff. But it is kind of terrifying that they're just dragging a dead body the rest of the way with them. Eventually, they arrive in Peru after some back and forth with Elena and Noah about backstories and stuff. And Wheeljack's in Peru. Why is he there? Do they explain it? No, he just shows up. Can you give me more context, please? Was Wheeljack meant to be there already? Like, he's been stationed in Peru for a while? Did he get the message and he's driven there? Like, was he in a nearby area or something? He just shows up, and he's full of butterflies. Okay, I'm not gonna get into the whole Pablo Wheeljack debate. I've made peace with the fact that Wheeljack doesn't really look like Wheeljack. Whatever. So they find the temple. The humans are small, so they can go in there easier. This is a recurring theme. They do it like 3 times in the film. They're like, okay, you're small, you will fit in the museum, and you can get the transwarp key. Okay, you are small, you will fit in the tunnel. And then at the final battle, they're like, okay, you're small, you can do the plot convenience thing. So they go in, and frickin' Freezer, these, like, 2007 frenzy dudes who are all shrapnel pieces, they are terrifying. But their scariest part is when they're being quiet, and they're sort of skulking around. You can hear them scraping at things and clinking at stuff, and again, with the theater I was in and the way they mixed the sound, it was terrifying hearing them from the right and from the left. It was very cool. So they chase them. That's terrifying. And Noah uses his Mirage gut gun thing. Yeah, he gets given like a chunk of Mirage as a weapon, and he's like, "It's a bit of me, and it's now on you. Use it." Mirage just sort of has lots of unexplained powers. Like, okay, he can turn into lots of things. He can turn into holograms and stuff. What can he not do? Eventually, they leg it the frick out of there, and they meet the rest of the Maximals. They were looking for the transport key there, by the way, and it wasn't there. But the other Maximals do know. But not until they do their typical heroes need to fight heroes for a minute and there's a misunderstanding in her. Ron Perlman voices Primal instead of Gary Chalk, and he does a pretty good job. He's got that dramatic deepness to him. They do their trailer style, stand down, no. And then Airazor shows up and she's like, stand down. Okay. Airazor sort of just mediates it and is like, alright, we don't need to beat the snot out of each other. And Primal's like, hey, Airazor, old Maximal friend, how's your team doing? Oh yeah, she had a team of her own and they're all dead. Oh. Now, this is a scene that I really think could have done a little bit better with just, you know, in the 2007 movie when they're like, okay, Ironhide, my weapon specialist, Jazz is, you know, second in command, and Bumblebee's a scout and stuff. They don't do that for the Maximals. Instead, they just sort of go, my name is Optimus Primal, and I'm named after Optimus Prime, the Great Warrior, vague time travel hint. And these are the Maximals. They don't say, like, you know, yeah, I'm Cheetor, who's my second command, or anything like that. They're just like, and the other ones. I think if they'd actually given them some sort of proper introduction, we would have actually cared for the Maximals more, because it's kind of just the G1 cast with Optimus Primal and Airazor for a bit, and also there's a cat and a rhino. Also, where's Rat Trap? We need Rat Trap and Dinobot to just come in and add the comedic relief, because they could do that in a genuinely funny way, I think, and also Dinobot's badass. Please, we need them for the sequel. So, after some vague talking and stuff, Optimus Primal's like, hey, we know where the second half of the key is, because we hid it with some humans. And Optimus Prime's like, you worked with humans? You mean they're to be trusted? I was wrong? Yeah, it's a whole about, it's Optimus learning how to trust people and to actually accept that this is his new world now. Because it's kind of his fault they're stuck there, so he's kind of just angry and guilty for a while, and now he's being taught by the Maximals who were taught by him. It's a bit of a bootstrap paradox where they're like, okay, Optimus Primal's this great warrior, we need to uphold his ideals, but also they helped him gain those ideals and stuff. It's a bit of a paradox of some sort. It's time travel. Anyways, they chuck Bumblebee's corpse in a pile of rocks and they're like, Energon! No, not enough power to actually activate it, so we're just gonna leave his corpse there. They've just been dragging his corpse around for the past couple days. It's a bit weird. Like, also, Stratosphere transforms into robot mode at one point, and he sort of transforms in whole to Bumblebee, because he's so huge, he could do that, right? Does that mean Stratosphere's just had the corpse inside him for the past 2 days? That can't be pleasant. The Terracons come and start causing shit, so Noah's like, you know what? I'm gonna break the other half of the transwarp key so that Unicron definitely can't start stuff. And then Optimus is like, don't. So he doesn't. And it's actually pretty intense just seeing him stare Human down, just like, dude, that's literally my home planet's last salvation. Please no. We have this brilliant highway battle scene with the Terracons and stuff, where Battletrap's like hooking onto Nightbird and chucking them around. We get Airazor gets actually attacked by this sort of nanite thing that Scourge chucks down on her, which kind of corrupts her and makes her a bit like an evil Bibbledy vulture, but not fully. It's like Unicron's touch, it's like Unicron's power is sort of corrupting her. Ooh. And that's actually pretty cool. This actually happens just before they meet the Maximals, so while they're meeting the Maximals and Airazor's mediating them all, she's kind of trying to not be evil. Eventually, when the Terracons show up again, after they found the other half of the transwarp key, Airazor can't keep it back any longer, and Primal has to get rid of her. And it's one of the few times where I've actually been super emotional in a Transformer movie. Because a lot of times, they're like, okay, we're gonna cut this dude in half, and it's like, it's so violent that you disconnect from it. Or it's like, oh, we killed Bumblebee. It's Bumblebee, he's probably not super dead, right? Why have you been carrying the corpse otherwise? But with Airazor, and seeing Primal's face, it's just a lot, man. And he ends up essentially hugging her to death with a crush. And they just sit down for a minute, and it's like, fuck. Because doing all that battle, Scourge gets the other half of the transwarp and everything, and they've lost. Optimus and Anthony have a bit of a heart-to-heart, and they're like, actually, we could work together, and there's a slim chance, but there's still a chance we could do it. Turns out there's a deactivation code that died with Airazor, but Elena knows it because she deciphered the hieroglyphics, so they can still turn it off. It's a small chance, but it's still a chance. So they have a brilliant planning montage, and Optimus literally is just sort of walking. They have like a whole, but there's like this one bit where he just sort of like waddles in place, and he's like, hey, I got an idea. I like that it makes him seem a bit more human. It's a lot more natural. So they roll up to a volcano to stop the transwarp key, and this is the third time where, oh, you're small, you can fit in the vents and get to the activation a lot easier. It's like the third time now. And the rest are like, yeah, we can take on an army. Because the transwarp key is actually activated, and it can see Unicron. He's too big to fit through it yet, so he's sending in his Scorponok minions and his freezers and stuff. So they have a final battle where it's all the same CGI models getting violently attacked, because, you know, that's what happens now, and it's actually pretty fun. One of my favorite bits in the whole film is when Optimus turns to Primal, and he's like, Autobots. And then Primal turns to Optimus, he's like, Maximals? And then they both together just go, roll out. It's no longer truck, not monkey, it's truck and monkey. It's brilliant. And then they have a freaking cool fight scene. The Maximals finally maximized. They've just been animals the entire time. They severely underused the robot modes. Meanwhile, Noah and Elena are trying to stop the countdown. Noah gets found by Scourge and hoiked up and is nearly killed. And then Mirage is like, no, I will stop you and I will use my body as a shield. And he fucking dies. But not before revealing that Scourge has been wearing a mask the whole time. And underneath his mask, he's a dude. I was one of those people who were like, okay, he is bad guy. He is long-nosed truck. His head kind of looks like Optimus. It could be Optimus. And then they take it off and it's just a dude. Okay. Because there was a transwarp and time travel, right? He could be an evil future Optimus and stuff like that. Tying into the Scourge is like sometimes an evil clone of Optimus in Robots in Disguise, right? That could have been cool. And instead, he's just got a face. So Elena's trying her best to get to the countdown and stop it, and she succeeds. And then Scourge blows up the control panel, and it's gonna go ahead anyway. So all hope seems lost or whatever. And then Bumblebee comes in. He's alive. The transwarp surge activated those energon rocks around him, brought him back to life, and he has the best scene in the whole film, and I will fight anyone who says otherwise. It's when he drops out of stratosphere, gets out both the guns, and just starts blasting, and he takes down Nightbird, and it's got the hip-hop music, and it's just really bloody cool. And then he does the superhero landing, right? He does the superhero landing. Doosh. Just, yeah, very well put together. It's meant to be a dramatic moment, and it is. So Optimus goes back to his psychopath ways, like in the old Bayverse films, and he's like, I'm gonna just decapitate Scourge now. I'm sick of this. And so he shoves his face into the lava and the volcanoes around them, and then fucking rips his head off. Oh. Okay, he's not quite soccer dad like G1. So after that, they're like, fuck, it's still gonna activate, it's still gonna bring through Unicron. So Optimus is like, you know what? I'm gonna stay behind. I'm gonna deactivate the transwarp myself, and I'm totally fine if I get sucked off into space or whatever with this portal. I'm gonna save everyone. The Autobots are all like, oh no, but okay, and they drive off. And so Optimus is like, alright, let's do this, skadoosh. And he's gonna get sucked up into space. And he uses his axe, and it's this really cool bit where he's like holding himself on, and he slips. He's going into space. And then Noah, in his exosuit that Mirage made out of his dead body, that was the thing they don't explain, but it's the thing that happened. He uses the exosuit, and he grabs on, and he's all, till all are one. And it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. But then Noah slips, and then Primal catches him. Till all are one. Autobots, Maximals, humans, all working together. That's the moral of the story. The moral is, everyone can be together, everyone can be united and work together, and it's a pleasant change from the usual destiny and war stuff that Transformers normally has. It's like, this one is more, we can all be friends. So they save Optimus, they have a badass transformation once again, and they drive off. So they're like, okay, did we kill Unicron? No, because we need him for the sequels, but he's gone for now. And then that's where it sort of ends, but not before we have a tease for G.I. Joe. That's actually pretty cool. I could see them doing it where they do the standard live-action Transformers military mix, but they're like sci-fi, like they got jetpacks and stuff, you know, take away the realism of war and stuff. That could actually be kind of cool. But he does his traditional Optimus Prime speech at the end where he's like, we are here, we are doing stuff, and roll out. And they used 2007 Transformers music, which I know it's a nostalgia grab because those films are 15 years old now, but it's still fun. And so Mirage gets rebuilt in a post-credit scene, and then we're done. So, my thoughts. I really enjoyed it. I hate the live-action Transformers most of the time. The only one I liked prior to this was Bumblebee, and it manages to keep going with that. I do dislike some stuff, like Optimus just goes straight back to being a psychopath, right? I know in the Bumblebee movie, he's like, you know, taking down the Seekers and stuff, but like, he doesn't, you know, rip a dude's head off. So it's a little bit disappointing they went straight back there, but okay. The designs, really well done. I like the mix of G1, Energon, some of the other stuff with the Bayverse designs, and it creates this nice happy medium. My only real criticisms with this film is that a lot of it's kind of vague, and not even in a ooh, we could set that up for a later movie vague, just in a they assume you already know, which isn't great for a beginner movie. The whole point of this film, from what I can see, is that this is the beginning of a new trilogy. I think they've already said that, but it feels like one, right? It doesn't feel like Transformers 7 or 8 or whatever it is. This feels like Transformers 1 again, with Bumblebee being a little bit of prelude that you don't need to watch to enjoy this. That's exciting. I'm excited, I'm here for that. But they kind of need to do a better job of establishing stuff if they're going to do that. Like I said, my main problem is just characters show up and they don't explain who they are, and they only really are there to serve their purpose. Like Stratosphere, he flies down, is plot convenience, flies away. Like, he literally, in the final battle, he doesn't show up. He just goes, brrr, drop off Bumblebee, brrr, done. That's kind of annoying. Wheeljack, he's in Peru. Why? Because reasons. Optimus Primal, and the other ones. Not really great when you're establishing a new team. I mean, Rhinox doesn't even say anything. And I know that in some of the original drafts, he was gonna be, like, that was his thing. That was the joke. He doesn't talk, he's strong silent type. In this, it just feels like they cut out all the bits where he talked. It doesn't feel like it was a deliberate decision. It just feels like he's there, but he didn't do anything important, so they didn't include it. Which sucks, because Rhinox is, like, one of the best Maximal characters. And if you'd established him now as being Maximal and fighting with the rest of them, you could do a corruption storyline like they did in Beast Wars later down the line in the third one or whatever they do with this movie series. And because you set it up now, that would actually be really cool. Whether they do a Tankor or just he's corrupted by Unicron thing, the fact that he could do that and then he embraces the evil, that could be really cool. But I don't care about Rhinox right now, because they've not given me a reason to. Cheetor, really bloody cool. Mostly just completes Optimus Primal sentences for him. No real personality. It's a shame. And then obviously the robot modes the Maximals have is used for like a couple minutes, and then they go back to being animals, and that's it. I get it, they're the Beast Wars ones, they need to show off the animal modes, that's cool. But could you use the robot modes for a little bit longer? Otherwise, why do you have them? Also, they never explain why there's other colony worlds or where the Maximals come from, and a lot of this could be fixed in a sequel. My issue is that this is meant to be part 1, right? So you shouldn't need to wait for the sequel to then understand part 1. Or at least make it deliberate and not just, we're from the future maybe. But with all those gripes, all those stuff, I'm really excited to see where this goes. We now know Unicron is a threat. We now know that he's still here. We've got some G.I. Joe stuff maybe coming along the way. They've not shown Megatron on purpose, because when they do show Megatron, it's gonna be bloody awesome. I 100% bet that the next film is probably gonna be focusing on the Predacons more than anything, and then the third one will be where they finally bring in the Decepticons again. Maybe, I don't know. They might decide, oh, Decepticons are more popular, so we're gonna do that. But it just seems weird that they introduced the Maximals, but none of the Predacons. I think film 2 should be not Rise of the Beasts, it should be about the Beasts. It should be explaining who they are, their world, their story, and Optimus Prime people are the secondary cast, right? And I know why they've done it this way. They don't know if Beast Wars sells well to the general audience anymore. They did in the 90s, but now it's been a while. So I understand that Optimus Prime's in the background holding their hand just in case it doesn't do well. But it does just feel like they could do so much more. And once they get the training wheels off of these characters again, I think it's gonna go really well. So overall, a very fun movie. All of the characters are likable. The bad guys are bad guys. It's not the world's greatest movie ever. I'm not saying that, but it's a very good Transformers movie. It's easily in the top 3. I still would say Bumblebee's maybe better, but Bumblebee's a very different film. It's a lot more simple, and it's a lot more about focusing on that one character. Rise of the Beasts has a much bigger scope. So I think Bumblebee and Rise of the Beasts are fighting for second place. I'm sorry, Nostalgia Brain still loves the 86 movie best, but also they did a couple of little references to it in Rise of the Beast, so I do enjoy that. Overall, it's a very solid 8 or 9 out of 10. Not perfect, but pretty damn good. And I'm very happy that I got to see it in theaters. it's not often you get to do that with a Transformers movie. They don't seem to be coming out that often anymore, but hopefully this changes that. Hopefully this does well, and this gets Transformers back in the minds of fans, and then they actually start making new ones and start pushing them more, because I want to see it. I want to see more characters. I want them to keep doing this G1 but not aesthetic, because it looks really nice. I mean, Optimus' design is brilliant, and I'm just really happy. I'm already working on a project vaguely related to it, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I also got some of the action figures from it, so there's maybe going to be a review on that soon. So, if you've gotten this far and you've enjoyed my ramblings, then make sure to subscribe so you see more of it. And let me know what you think of Rise of the Beasts, because I've only been sort of contained in this little bubble of my friend group. I don't actually know what the wider audience thinks about it yet, so let me know. Otherwise, I'll catch you next week. Farewell!